It is the yearly release for bike racing fans. MotoGP 22 is finally here. What F1 is to the fans of four-wheeled racing action, MotoGP is for our two-wheelers. With a lot of new features, the franchise tries to bring itself to a new level and possibly create the best bike racing game yet. Did they succeed? Let's take a look. And with that, welcome back to Overtake. Developer Milestone has gifted the world of motorbike racing a new title. MotoGP 22 promises to encapsulate a great experience for new racers and advanced biking connoisseurs. A task that many have taken on, but only a few have really hit the mark. The list of new features in the game is mighty. Let's start with something that will make the heart of old school fans shine. The 9, or Season 2009, is a mixture of documentary and interactive gameplay. Here, players can relive the legendary MotoGP season of 2009. If you want to relive legendary moments from the Overtake YouTube channel, you can always like, subscribe and hit the bell to never miss any upcoming MotoGP video again. But back to the documentary. To create that special retrospective feeling, Milestone added over 50 minutes of original material from the director Mark Neal. In between, players are invited to take to the bike themselves and cruise through iconic times. Would something like this be cool for the upcoming F1 game this year? Write it down in the comments below. I have to say, even for non-viewers of the real-life product, this was both insightful and cool to see. The parallels to F1's breaking point are there, but the interjected footage makes it more engaging, in my opinion. But even people who strictly want to play the game won't be left hanging. If you are more of a newcomer to the MotoGP franchise, the game hands you a newly designed tutorial. In here, rookies can hone their bike craft by completing missions, for example, and get introduced to all aspects of the game. There are tasks for the electronics, tire wear, and brakes, for example. With different missions, the tutorial tries to teach each player the difference between them, which works fine. The MotoGP Academy is a new part to the player onboarding that is very specific, but great for everyone who wants to get a deep understanding for the tracks in the game. It seems a little hard to grasp at first, but practice makes perfect. And also, if it reminds you of GT7, maybe that's not a coincidence. Big changes make the progression through the MotoGP game definitely smoother, something that was kind of a struggle in the past for sure. Enthusiasts of the MotoGP series don't have to miss their beloved modes from the past, however. You can still have a slick start in quick modes, or test your knowledge of the scene in the career mode once again. The manager mode has returned, which lets the player slip into the role of team owner as well as driver to either establish a new team or take over an already existing one. But enough about the content, let's get to the heart of the biking. Something players were struggling with in the past as well was the gameplay. There was no glaring weakness, but there have been some voices that talked about the slow progression the genre made over the years. The same approach was taken here once again. Slow and steady increase of possibilities with newly resurfaced tracks, improved damping, and changes to the tires, for example. At a higher level of play, this will surely be noticed by players, but for the average Joe, the game feels largely the same as it did last year. Wide swings into a corner are punished, and rowdy driving will most likely result in a home run for the opposing riders. What is noticeable is the rework of Slipstream from last year. Whether you drive behind another rider will determine how hot or cold your rubber plus your brakes get. This is most noticeable at the start, where you really have to find your line to get some heat into your parts. All in all, gameplay has been on a steady uprise for MotoGP ever since the past years. The vocal criticism is often that smaller changes don't actually warrant a completely new game, but rather a patch of the old one. If you keep that out of your mind, the gameplay is fun. Races feel like they should, and there's nothing that ruins your biking experience this year. Also new is the advanced difficulty system. With short pop-ups in-game, the player now has the opportunity to tone the strength of their opponents up or down, or even activate certain assists, depending on how well you do. This is mainly tailored towards the newcomers, who may or may not understand which assists are useful at the start. In terms of graphics, MotoGP 21 probably got the most criticism last year. Character models and bikes seem mostly copy-pasted of the previous part. MotoGP 22, however, worked the Unreal Engine a bit to create new facial expressions and 3D models, which still look kind of wonky sometimes, but it's a step in the right direction. Certainly a neat little fix the game genre needed. On track, many things look similar. Lighting looks good even without ray tracing, and even hectic racing situations bear no problem for a medium spec PC. Most of the time the game will run in 60 FPS, which is nice to see with a title that is supposed to be next-gen ready. In this regard, I would have liked to see a little bit more this year. I know that with yearly titles, often stuff isn't massively changed over the course of a single game. But especially if something is tailored towards a new console generation, I would have liked to see a little bit more, just a little bit. You know what I mean? It's not that it's bad, but the improvements in this department should have been greater, I feel like. One thing that does look better is the menu. Everything is nice and sorted on one page and not cluttered with little to no category like in previous years. A quality of life improvement for sure, but a good one at that. If you ask me what my first impression of MotoGP 22 was, I would tell you that I was positively surprised at the changes, especially on the content side. Newer players have an easier time to get into the genre, while hardcore riders can take a trip down memory lane or customize their bikes even more, thanks to the changes on the micro level. More customization options and better looks enhance the feeling of MotoGP 22 being worthy of a standalone name, rather than being called patch or rework. The things that bug me with this game have more to do with the overall approach to yearly titles. Considering MotoGP 21 had fewer upgrades and arguably ones that weren't as needed, I have to give a thumbs up here as well. I only think the graphics department wasn't quite as stretched as it could have been, considering Milestone is branding MotoGP 22 next-gen ready. With all the amount of small upgrades and steady improvements, I think it is fair to say MotoGP 22 is definitely in contention for best biking game yet. With a bit more time and maybe some updates, this game could be a real banger. MotoGP 22 is available on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch, and on Steam from the 21st of April onwards. At the time of recording this, there obviously is no multiplayer yet. If you want to see a video about that in the future, be sure to let us know in the comments below. That's it from my side, and until next time, cheerio.